And welcome back again. Yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander of Keeping It Honest. We don't just keep it simple, we don't just keep it real, we also keep it honest. And Happy New Year to you. We are really doing things on the fly here. So when you talk about being behind the scenes, you really tonight being behind the scenes. My name is Anthony Parker Alexander of Keeping It Honest. What we try to do in this program, we try to give you the left side, we try to give you the right side. And at the end of the program, hopefully, you will decide. If you don't like it, the information that we give you, even though it's pretty much the truth, then we've done our job. You want to contact me. My contact information is parkerman2222 at gmail.com. Again, it's parkerman2222 at gmail.com. And you can call me, text me. Number is 216 702 3718. 216 702 3718. And then we also have the chat over here. If you like to do a live chat, we can do it. Just going to have to be patient because it's a one-man crew. We're ending this as a one-man crew, and we're beginning it as a one-man crew going into the next year. And by the way, again, happy New Year's Eve to you. In a couple minutes, it will be New Year's Day. So the reason we're doing this show, because somebody told me or suggested me, hey, Anthony, why don't you think, or have you ever thought about doing a New Year's Eve, New Year's Day show? And I said, you know what? I like experimenting with things. I like to see what happens. So I said, okay, I'm going to see what's going to happen. We're going to try this today and see how it goes. Because I thought about this. There are some people that aren't going out on New Year's Eve. Some people it's because they're older. They don't want to be in any of the crazy things happening. Some people don't want to go to a bar and pay for a tab to get in just to pay for another tab. Some people don't want to be around a lot of crowded people. Some people just want to watch the New Year's or Rockin' Eve kind of shows. Some people want to go to sleep. And some people just want to be home. They want to be thinking about the new year. And the one thing I found, because there's a lot of people that don't go out, a lot of people that might be lonely. I was talking to somebody, and it's interesting because where do the loneliest people go? Well, what would you think? The police station? The loneliest people will go to the hospitals. That's where people will go just so they can be around somebody. I thought that is so interesting. That is so bad. So I say to people out here to combat loneliness, maybe try to be friendly to people more. Maybe that will make a difference. You never know. Again, you want to text me? You can text me. 216-702-3718. You can even call me too. 216-702-3718. So again, so I decided to do this show because I felt, man, there's not a lot of people who are going out. Some people are looking at streaming. And some people like, okay, well, what is out there, internet or media that's live that I can feel like they're there for me? Well, I'm there for you. Again, this is an experiment and we'll see what happens. But on this show, we try to give positive news. We try to get news out there that people, maybe they've heard about it and said, wow, I didn't really know about that news as far as that being in depth. Or maybe they haven't heard about it. And what we try to do is we try to put a Parker twist to it. So while we're doing this, I have my tea. My tea is very hot. So I'm not going to drink it or you will see me live screaming because it's so hot. Want to know, how was the year 2023 for you? And how do you feel the year 2024 is going to be for you? So while we wait to see if people get involved, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. My background is in multimedia. I spent years in mainstream media. Did a talk show, worked at a big band music station, rock and roll station, country station, um, all talk radio station that literally the demographics were non African Americans or all white. And then I was also at a talk radio station where the demographics were all black. So I got to see all sides of the story and did that for years and then got out of it when duopolies and modernization came and they started taking people out and putting robots in because stations were saving a lot of money. So I did that for a while. Also was doing some social work and also have a cat here who is wondering, what are you doing? Well, I'm doing a talk show. So while doing the social work, raised some kids, couple kids, and well, a lot of kids, 3 to be exact. And then the opportunity came to get back into social media. But before I did that, I also did a couple TV shows where I interviewed a lot of people and asked a question. And the name of my shows back then was called Parker After Dark. The slogan was, it's not just a radio or TV program, but the future of radio and TV. And we talked about issues that were kind of taboo to a lot of people. But I was always fair and balanced before there was fair and balanced. And in between that, ran for office a couple times. A couple years back, I ran for Congress, got on the slate for Congress. You can look me up. Alexander's last name, and ran for Congress. I ran up against Max Miller, who's in Congress now. So it was Max Miller, millions of dollars from Trump, 2 other people that ran, about 100,000 that they put in, and then yours truly. And in one city, I placed 3rd. And in the whole contest, out of 4 of us, I was last, but I was 9% from placing 2nd. Wow. And when you think about Congress, that's a big deal. People like, Congress, you ran for Congress? And I tell people, look, it was only as big as you make it. If nobody knows about it, kind of like the show, it's only as big as you make it. So if you're one that you want to be in tune with the communities, then you're going to make it worth something. When somebody says, hey, you think you could help us out? As long as you do that. So I didn't win, but placed 4th, but 9% from placing 2nd. And I looked at it in a way, well, okay, God, well, you put that into my life. I can't just let that, lay away or be a waste. And because I was so close from placing 2nd, I've gotten more involved with politics. I found out how dirty politics is. If you're doing something, I'm just letting you know, for people that want to run for politics, I'm letting you know that if you ever want to run for politics, you got to make sure, 1, that you got nothing on you, 2, that you'll find out who your friends are, and 3, you have to be a strong person. So I love getting out there. I love making a difference. I love telling people, look, if you don't like who's in office, then either you run or you get somebody else to run and get that person out of office. I'm looking at my clock because I'm trying to see when it's 12 o'clock and it's the new year. So we have about a minute left and I'm giving people time. And the one good thing about doing live shows, if people don't catch it live, they can catch it in the rewatch. So for all you people who do rewatch the show, and it's kind of like a show that's on national TV and like the major networks. And then it may not get a lot of ratings, but then they see it on streaming and it pulls up. Kind of like what this stuff is here too. So in the last couple of seconds we have left, I want you to thank God that you made it through this year and that you're going into the next year. And prayerfully, you will have an even better year or a better year period in 2024 than you had in 2023. May all your bad ideas, all the bad things in your life, I write them down, I crumble them up, and then I burn them. Happy New Year, everybody. 2024. 2023 is gone now. Thank goodness. It is out of here. Some people have had some good times in 2023. Some people have had some bad times. So I'm going to do something what shows don't normally do. I'm going to pray. Dear God, we thank you for letting us get through the year 2023 and going to 2024. A lot of people didn't make it. A lot of people just missed going to 2024, the last minutes, maybe the last seconds of 2023. We pray for them, God. We pray that they're in heaven or wherever place that they're comfortable with. For people that don't believe in God, we still pray for you that whoever you believe in, that you will be taken care of. We pray that the hard things that you went through in 2023 will make you even stronger in 2024. The things that you couldn't do and wanted to do in 2023, we pray that you'll be able to do it in 2024. We thank you, God, for people being out there that we can help. Because when you help somebody, you help yourself. More humility in 2024 for you and yours truly. Being more humble because there's never a limit to being humble. And also making a difference, not just in other people's lives, but in your life too. Keep well, keep safe, and have a great 2024. Amen. All right. So that's something that you normally don't see is somebody giving a prayer. So on to the show. Anthony Parker here. And we are keeping it honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker. We don't just keep it honest, we keep it simple, and we keep it real. You have any questions or comments, you can email yours truly. It's Parkerman2222 at gmail.com, Parkerman2222 at gmail.com. You can give me a call or text, and thank you for that text right there. Happy New Year to you too. That telephone number is 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. And we also have the live chat here if you'd like to live chat me. Tell your friends about our show. So what has our show been about? So I'm going to let you know some of the things that we did on this past show and upcoming shows that you might have missed. We have one of my favorite ones is Cornel West. He's running for president of the United States, and he's independent. And we've had conversations, and if you watched any of the show, we have shown you some clips of yours truly being on the show. We thank you for people that have watched it, that have commented. So we have some sections of shows that we are really in depth that we're going to talk to Cornel West about. So stay tuned for that. We also had a show with the editor of the Kansas City newspaper. If you heard about that last year, there was a newspaper that was raided by the FBI, made national news. And when the FBI came to the newspaper, they took the laptops, they took the computers, they took the drives, they took phones, personal phones. They took anything and everything. Thank you again. And Happy New Year to you too. They took anything and everything that was regarding this newspaper. And so they even went to the editor's house and the mom's house. So when he went there, they took computers from there to laptops, anything electronic. And the owner of the paper, who was a very old in the 80s and 90s. Um, she was so traumatized by that the next day she had a heart attack and she died. So the pressures of her being invaded by the FBI did make a difference. And then not too long after that, the FBI, the police said, you know what? We didn't find anything. We're going to give back all the equipment. But at what cost? The mom's life. So I had the son on, who's the editor of the paper, and his mom's the one that passed away, but worked at the paper. Had him on the show, and we talked about freedom of speech. So I had asked him, I said, okay, well, how do you know when the FBI gave you back this equipment that they didn't take anything off of your laptop? And he said he didn't know. But it's a fascinating story. And we've aired bits and pieces of it. Um, but stay tuned as we air more of that coming up on future shows. We had another person running for president. Her name is Jasmine Sherman. And she has an interesting story, legalizing marijuana, a bunch of other things, reparations. And I put out clips. And if you've watched the show, you've seen a little bit about her, but that's another person that's a lot more in depth. Stay tuned for that one. And then we had a writer by the name of David, professor. Anything of Dr. King, he knows. Okay, and he wrote a book about Dr. King, very legendary writer. So I had him on my show. And a couple years ago, he wrote a book about Barack Obama. And I like to say not too long ago, it made national news because Obama had talked about how he had fantasies about other men, which made like national news. So he was on TV, and the book is about 3 years old, but they were talking about, well, you interviewed and wrote about President Obama and some of the fantasies. Can you elaborate more on that? We talked about that. And then also he did a book about Dr. King and some of the things that Dr. King did, from allegedly fooling around to how he used to, gamble and do a lot of stuff that, a lot of us didn't know. And I had heard about the fooling around a couple of years ago, and I couldn't believe it. And so my question was to him, when you have the legend, but you have the truth, do you print the truth or do you print the legend? So when this guy, Mr. Guerrero, talked about this and wrote an article, there was no places or papers, magazines, online in America that wanted to print his story. He had to go out of the country to print it. And when it got printed, he was crucified. But he said, he had the proof. And a lot of this will come out in a couple of years when the FBI releases the JFK investigation they did on him with the CIA, FBI. So a lot of people are going to learn stuff because how he learned when they were looking to learn more about JFK, they also found out that Dr. King was connected to that. So we did a conversation talking about that and Dr. King. And my thing is too, for you, for anybody out there, when the legend conflicts with the truth, do you print the truth? Because if you've looked at people and they look like they're God, they don't do anything wrong, well, Bill Cosby, you think about it. Charlie Rose, anybody that you like, they've kind of been tainted. Some have, some haven't. Do you print that truth and let people know, well, this is who they really are? So I've always been conflicted with that. And I deal with each story separately. But I try to do it for Parker Twist and I try to make it work. And then another one of the interviews I did, as I am trying to remember it, and I can't remember it right now. Oh yeah, Dr. Shiva. Dr. Shiva, you may have heard of another person running for president. Very, very animated person. And he's known as a person that created the email. So if you don't believe me, Type in Dr. Shiva. He created the email. There's been controversy about that. Some said he did, some said he didn't. He's also running for president. And we've given out some clips on that. So check him out when you can. Again, this is Keeping It Honest with yours truly, Anthony Parker. This is the Parker After Dark version of the show. We did a late night version. My favorite words are not too long ago. And wanted to know, and some people have gotten back with me on this, when is the best time, you think, to do a show, to do a live show? Morning, afternoon, evening, or overnight? Let me know which ones you think are pretty popular. And then we'll see about doing that. But we did an overnight show called You Pick the News, and I gave a bunch of news stories and said, okay, you pick the news, and we'll do that show. And that's what we did. And a Happy New Year to you guys again. I thank you for, at least, if a lot are watching it now, hopefully, when you rewatch it, you'll be able to pin the like, the share, and the subscribe button. And I said, you can contact me anytime. So we also have a Patreon account. And that is like, let's look at PBS. If you have shows on PBS, you can't just watch them for free. You can contribute money, sponsorship. So Patreon is a website where people who are creative that do work, people that like the work that they do, they can subscribe and give money. Think of it as a politician. One politician you like, you might give money to support them because they can't do it all by themselves without any money. Shows can't run by themselves on PBS. And some of these shows, as you'll find out, they are funded by some of the people that watch the shows. So I have 3 tiers, and you can go on there and see. And then if you're interested, you can say, okay, I want to do $5 a month. I want to do $10 a month. I want to do $20 a month. I want this show to grow. And that's you saying that, and that's me saying that, because we're all a part of the same family. There may be topics that you say, man, nobody's talking about that, but I think Anthony might. So I'm going to subscribe to the show. So check that out. That's Patreon. And you can get on the About page on my YouTube page and click the About, and it'll show you Cash App, how to contribute, and Patreon, how to contribute. And upcoming, which I'm going to be very excited about, I'm going to be on a Substack, and I'm going to be writing some articles and stuff. And so Substack is one where people can write, and they're not censored, kind of like on streaming. And so I'll be writing some articles. So hopefully you'll follow me, and as soon as I do it, I'll let you know. But stay tuned again for that. Some of the people who are at Substack is Dennis Kucinich, is the one Professor Dershowitz. He's on Substack, and a bunch of other influential people. So I said, you know what? I want to be on that site too. I want to write stories and maybe interview some of the people who are writing those stories. And on there too, it's, if you love reading too, then that's the site you should go on to. It's Substack. So when I have my stories, stay tuned. So now let's talk about 2023. Was it good? Was it bad for you? Was it more good or was it more bad? If you could take anything out of 2023, what would it be? If you could take anything that's the most gut-wrenching thing that happened to you in 2023, what would it be? So now that we've crossed over to 2024, prayerfully, you've left that. So what is in store for 2024? What is something that you want to do now, that you want to do in 2023, but said, you know what, I'll save it till next year for 2024? Some people say, you know, it's being on a diet, it's weightlifting, it's running, it's exercising, it's dating. What is it out there for 2024 that you would like to be a part of your life? And then how long can you keep it a part of your life? Maybe you want to read the Bible, get more spiritual, make new friends, have a sense of humor, maybe be more serious, be more healthy, watch better TV, go to better movies. Just be a better version of you in 2024. Let me know if you have any slogans for 2024 too. I'm thinking of one for me. And speaking of slogans, so now when I started to create the show, Keeping It Honest, it originally was called Keeping It Simple. Because when people talk to you, like, I'm just keeping it real. You're like, I'm just keeping it real. I'm just keeping it real. So that's what I try to do. So I was calling it Keeping It Real with Anthony Parker, but then found out that was taken. So then I went to AI. Okay. How many people are scared of AI? How many people think last year, 2023, was a year of AI? I think it was. So I asked AI, what names of shows can I call my show I'm doing? And as you'll see a little bit tonight or this morning, you let me know what seems to fit. Authentic Conversations with Anthony Parker, Genuine Conversations featuring Anthony Parker, Unfiltered with Anthony Parker, The Real Deal starring Anthony Parker. No, I don't like that one. True to Life with Anthony Parker. That sounds like a animal show. Straight Talk with Anthony Parker. Sounds like a show where you're sitting in an AA group and talking. Real Talk featuring Anthony Parker. The Genuine Experience hosted by Anthony Parker. The Authentic Perspective with Anthony Parker. That sounds more like a newsy show. This sounds hardcore. Raw and Real with Anthony Parker. This sounds like a smart guy. Genuine Insights featuring Anthony Parker. Realness Unleashed with Anthony Parker. The Truth Talk with Anthony Parker. That sounds like a spiritual show. Genuine Vibes featuring Anthony Parker. Whoa, man, that's a cool show. Genuine Vibes. Man. Unfiltered Perspectives with Anthony Parker. Meaning, look, I can't keep it fake. I got to keep it real. Speaking of real, the Realness Revolution. Peace with Anthony Parker. Authentic Living with Anthony Parker. That's like something like on a farm. The Genuine Voice of Anthony Parker. Sounds like a radio show. Keeping It Genuine with Anthony Parker. Real Connections featuring Anthony Parker. Let's see if we can connect as a group. True to the Core. That's what I'm saying. It's really true to the core with Anthony Parker. Or Keeping It Honest with Anthony Parker. All right, so there we go. That's, I guess, was what we went with. Keeping It Honest with Anthony Parker. So, 2024, some of the things you're looking forward to in 2024. What are they? I'm looking for peace and happiness and realness within myself and people. What is the worst thing that you don't want to happen in 2024? The worst thing that I would hate to happen myself would be, less real and genuine people. Because we do need more genuine people. I'm telling you. So, let's talk about the Gaza war. A lot of people are scared to talk about that. And the interesting thing about that is that as much as we try to find the truth of it, the much we still can't understand. Churches are kind of confused. People are kind of confused. If you say the wrong thing, people will attack you. So you really have to be careful what you say. I would like to have two different sides of this on my show to talk about this, to dumb it down and explain it to me. I've always wondered, what is news unless it affects you? The Gaza war. It affects a lot of Jewish people. It affects a lot of white people. But really, does it affect the black community? Does the black community really care about the Gaza war? I've been curious about that. I want to ask some people to come on the show and talk about that. And this is kind of what I do when I'm on my show throughout the daytime. I've always got stuff involved that I want to talk about. And some of it, like I said, it may be controversial, but some of these things are real. And it makes you think, well, you know what? Is this something that people want to talk about? Because sometimes in conversations, people are really, here we go, not used to being honest. So then we just talked about African Americans in Gaza, and that would be a great topic in itself. So I'm going to give you this commentary in a second. Real streaming. They don't do this on regular TV. Okay, sometimes I like reading opinion pieces because sometimes it puts together words that maybe you can't, and then maybe to bring up a conversation that people just are not popular in dealing with. So there was this lady by the name of Sharon Hurley Hall, and she wrote, "Black people are not your problem to solve. Racism is." And no matter what, we don't want to accept it, but racism is out there, no matter what. But I'm gonna read her article, and you can tell me what you think. So her name is Sharon Hurley Hall, and she says, "Black people are not your problem to solve. Racism is." I am an anti-racism educator and activist, co-founder of Mission Equality, the author of I'm Tired of Racism, and co-host of the Introvert Sisters podcast. So she starts, "Hello, friends. I'm continuing my short series of reboot posts from the archives. Here's today's post. Black people are not your problem to solve. Racism is. I can't remember when I had this epiphany, but it was born out of my discomfort with some of the language around ending racism. Some would-be allies can't help falling into white savior mode. Some would-be allies can't help falling into white savior mode, and more than that, they fail to understand where racism comes from and focus solely on isolated incidents rather than systems. Don't get me wrong, it's good that they're doing something, but sometimes they go about it the wrong way. As always, I speak for myself, and please know that there are Black people right now who will think I'm wrong. That's okay, because we are not a monolith, and I never claim to know everything." Okay? Remember, this gets a little worse. Okay. Sometimes when I have a conversation with a white acquaintance about racism, it goes something like this. I share a painful experience, then either they commiserate and express guilt, shame, or disbelief about their fellow white people, or they start exercising the intention of the abuser, because racism is abuse. Right now, this is me. Think about that. Is racism abuse? Now back to the letter. And blaming or gaslighting the victims of racism. Neither of those is helpful. Expressing guilt or shame doesn't benefit people, most influenced by racism, in fact. Black and brown people sometimes find ourselves sidetracked from expressing or healing our own traumas in order to solve white people's hurt feelings. Is that true? My question mark. Now back to her. Note that I am not saying that you shouldn't be sorry, but ask yourself what the end goal is and how you deal with that sorrow. Is it to make yourself feel better or to improve the situation for people suffering from racism? Wow. I once had to post on LinkedIn, and I've got a couple people saying, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everybody. Is it to make yourself feel better or to improve the situation for people suffering from racism? Back again. I once had to post this on LinkedIn after hearing of yet another example of white comfort being prioritized over doing the right thing for black and brown people. It happens a lot. This belief is equally unhelpful because it often feels like white people haven't been listening to what we've been saying about racism for decades. And would be allies are not even hearing us. The road ahead feels even longer. Wow. And as a victim blaming, let me say this one more time for the people in the back. I'm an expert in living with racism, so if I say I've experienced it, it's neither my imagination nor my fault. I perfectly agree on that. It's essential to realize that the problem of racism is not just about hurt feelings, it's about system, system exclusion from the best the country has to offer: housing, education, job prospects, voting, medical treatment, you name it. This is me again. So, exclusion. We may have a little of everything, but not a lot of everything. Okay, back to the letter. The problem of racism is not black people, it's the system of white supremacy and racial oppression we're all living in. As a would be ally, it's essential to take responsibility for the way that you benefit from that system and then share the privilege and the wealth, sometimes literally. What I really want is for would be allies to do something to help dismantle the system that makes racist actions possible. And yes, I know that dismantling centuries old racist machinery is a pretty tall order. Yes, it is. But you don't have to do it all yourself, and you don't have to do it alone. Start where you are and take action today to make things better. Thanks for reading. And that's Sharon. So, do you agree with that letter? Racism. Sorry about that. Systematic. Is it there? Do you really believe it's there? Is there a difference between, okay, they say light skin and dark skin racism? And how can you tell? And I'm asking white people that another white person is racist. Let's hope in the year 2024 that there is less racism. And anything. Racism could be racism against the Jews, racism against Chinese people, racism against Arab and Muslims, and of course, racism against African Americans. I would like to know, what is your take on that racism? Again, hit the like and share button, and please subscribe. And if you're not watching it live now, do the rewatchable and comment then. Let me know what you think. Contact number 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718, and live chat me. Email address is parkerman2222 at gmail.com, parkerman2222 at gmail.com. We only have a couple more minutes left. I wanted you to go from the old year to the new year and tell your friends. Tell me what kind of shows you would like to see. So in the year 2024, we're going to have a new president, whether it's new President Biden, new President Trump. Are they both going to make it? Is one going to be in? Is one going to be out? Politically, I don't like how that's going because in the Democratic Party, the party's organization is having it where there's only Biden on the ballot in certain states. How can you do that? What if you want to vote for Williamson or somebody else? And then Trump is getting put off a couple states because of the insurrection. But whether you agree there was an insurrection or not, he hasn't been proven innocent or guilty. So how can you take somebody off the ballot? So technically, you can go to these states, and for Democratic ballot, you can only have Biden. And for Republican ballot, you may not have Trump on there. So if one of these two people you wanted on the Democratic Party, a bunch of people, and then on the Republican Party, not Trump, but you wanted him, the country is taking away literally your right to vote. Okay. Um, Will this help third parties come now? So will people be so upset that they don't want any people on the ballots now, and they may go to a third party? People were surprised when Trump won. You just never know. And my cat, he doesn't like when I talk about politics. Okay, if I'm talking cat food, he loves that. Um, so maybe I'll put the word cat food in what I'm talking about. So, and I tell people cat food. If you do not like who's in office, because I can tell you because I ran, then you should think about running or pick somebody else to run. It's not as hard as it seems. We come together as a coalition, we can make so many changes. A lot of people say that they're not going to vote. Some people say because Biden's old and Trump is old. If those are your two cases, and I'm going to do this like I've done on my shows before, if you vote and you have a pen right here and you have a marker right here, and these are the only ones that you can vote for, but you find out both of them have dried up ink so they can't write, but these are the two choices that you have, what do you do? Do you vote for the lesser of the two, but then you're not satisfied, but you're only satisfied because the lesser of the two got in, but that still means you're not satisfied. So then do you say, you know what, I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote because I don't see anybody. But then, lo and behold, boop, the cup comes in the run. And you're like, wow, man, let me see what this cup's ideas are. Let me taste the issues. Hmm. And you say, wow, I kind of like this cup's issues. So Cup's having a hard time to run because he's not getting a lot of people. But you still got the pen and you still got the marker, and you're like, I don't want to vote for these two. But that cup comes in and you're like, wow, I like the way it tastes. I believe in this, but do I take the chance to vote for this cup? Because you may not get a lot of voters and waste my vote for the pen and the marker, who I'm not satisfied with. So you would hope that common sense will say more people would take the chance because opportunity is there to really vote your conscience in who and what you believe in. Okay, not because you're a Democrat or Republican, but if this cup has issues and you really believe in this cup and this cup is trying to make a difference, then maybe the cup will overrule the pen and the marker, and then the cup will win. So I'm at that stage. I know everybody's at that stage. So with all these people running and the potential for people to run and you not being satisfied, I can't tell you how to vote, but you just need to vote. And there's my little voting lesson, cat food. So now my cat is quiet. So speaking of quiet, the movie Color Purple, I thought this was interesting. It came out, and if you remember about 30 years ago, it was original Color Purple. This one's Color Purple too with Oprah Winfrey. Color Purple is a legend. Okay. So they remade it, kind of rebooted it, and it's made a lot of money. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't comment about it. But people have seen it. You let me know. Through all the information I told you how to contact me. Let me know if you saw the Color Purple, the new one, and if you liked it. And then let me know if you saw the old Color Purple and then saw this new one. And what are the differences? Should things be remade? Is one of the questions. Um, some things that were remade constantly is 007 movies. Okay. Because, you have one star for like 10 years and then another one comes. Batman remade. Maybe not the same storyline, but it's a different person with the same identity, but just takes it up a little notch. Um, Remakes for songs. What do you think of that? Should people remake a song? There's a story now, and it's kind of a remake in a weird kind of way. Good Times. I'm an advocate for the show Good Times. I think it was one of the greatest shows ever, comedy wise, because I love the father. On the show, I talked about TV dads, and he was my number one dad. But the behind the scenes on that Good Time show and Norman Lear, everybody praised Norman Lear when he died at about 100 years old, which was a long time. Um, People have said that he didn't really give enough shows a way to grow. Even though it was groundbreaking shows that he did, most of these shows were copycats from London. Saffron and Son was from a show called Stepso, I think, and Son. It was a British show. All in the Family was a British show. And what he did, he created those shows, but he kind of like, hey, you know what? I like how that show was made. I'm going to remake it. So it was it technically a remake? But he became famous for doing all these shows, Maud, Good Times, The Jeffersons, Sanford and Son, all these shows. And when Good Times was on, it was interesting as I read up about it. Um, they talked about issues. They wanted the show first to be about a single mother raising her kids, and the show was on in the 70s. And the lady that played Florida, Esther Rose, said, no, I want it to be a show about a family. And she said, if I can't have that family, I'm not going to do it. So they got her John Amos, who was the husband. And for the first 3 years, it was about them in the projects, keeping their head above water, making it any way they can, temporary layoffs, good times. Ain't we got it? Good times. Classic song. And so the father was just a great father. He tried to take care of his family and everything. And then when they had JJ, the oldest kid, and he would do this goofy stuff, they started going away from serious stories and wanted him because he kept saying dynamite. He didn't show you the trials and tribulations somewhat of being a kid. So when they did so much comedy on him, and the father was like, you know what? I thought this was going to be the stories about a black family and not our son just doing crazy things. He said, you know what? I'm not liking this, and we got to have better stories. So Norman Lear and them said, you know what? We got to kill the father off because right now we're a popular show. And they killed him off. Um, and the show became more the JJ show. And Esther Rolle, she decided to leave that next year. And then she came back in the final year, but the show by then had literally changed. But you think if they would have been on the trajectory as being a family, one of the first total black families on TV that could have done something more positive instead of, and they did talk positive issues, but instead of silliness, who knows how great that show would have became. Um, the brother, the young brother, he didn't get a chance to be focused. He was a kid. He was a revolutionary. He was a Black Power kid, but they could have did so many stories. And you think of the daughter on the show. Back then, growing up, everybody had a crush on her. She was 17 years old. So, if you're a kid watching that, and she right then was the teenage girl with the most exposure in television at that time, trying to break down doors as far as being a young girl. She could have really been a role model. She was, I guess, a role model, but she could have been even a better role model. So they didn't tap into the brother and the sister. They just tapped on JJ pretty much and took away from what the show really could have been. It was called Good Times, in spite of it not being good times for that cast. So it was a sad show. It was one of my favorite shows because the dad was there. And after he left, it became what a lot of people have considered fatherless homes. And that show was in the 70s. In the 20s, 2024, single dads, not home, or dads, period, that still exists. So kudos to all the single fathers who are raising their kids. And I am, of course, one of them. But I give you um, credit for being that dad. Stick with your family. Keep it together. Okay? Be a great role model to your kids. Speaking of role models and what we try to do right, there have been a lot of shows that I have watched streaming wise that said, wow, I want to be like that show. And it was interesting because I told you guys that I was in mainstream media, did it for years. And once I got on streaming, I found out, there are certain stories that regular media aren't covering that streaming is. So then I started watching regular TV and it was like, man, they are not covering this story and not asking those questions. and maybe tainting certain things. And so it made me like streaming more. Streaming is like an art form. There's so much competition out there that you got to find, your audience, and you got to bring in more audience. So that's what I'm doing. And I said I put a lot of hard work into some of these shows, all these shows, and I'm very proud of it at the end of the day because we keep it honest. We don't just keep it real. We don't just keep it simple. We keep it honest. And I am yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. So tell me, does anybody still watch TV? Because everybody's watching streaming, everybody's on their phone and everything, and everybody is like what I'm doing now, answering questions to people or just on their phone, period. What would you do without a phone? Hmm. What I want to do is I want this show to grow in 2024. I want you to be a part of it. I will be getting out there more. We will be doing some interactive stuff. First day of the year, baby steps, baby steps. Okay. We're going to be having more guests on the show, going to be doing more commentary, and hopefully we'll be having you being a part of our show by hitting the like button, hitting the share button, and subscribing. I want you guys to know that it's interesting how God works spiritually. I'm going to give you a little message. I talked to somebody today, and if you're not a believer of God, then tell me what you get out of this. Lady was driving home. Or was driving on the highway, and she was had long, I don't know, long time to go before she got home. And she said she was on the highway, and she heard a voice, and that voice told her to get off the highway and get something to eat. And she said, huh. So she listened to the voice in her head and said, I am hungry. I'm gonna go get something to eat. So she stopped at this diner, and she got something to eat, and she's sitting there chilling. And as she's chilling and eating and relaxing, a bad thunderstorm comes. It's a whiteout. So for a little while, she's in the restaurant with other people. She's looking outside. She can't see nothing. So, of course, she says, well, I got good reason not to go anywhere. So when it dies down, she decides to leave. And as she's leaving and driving, she comes up to the highway being blocked, and there was about a 50-car accident. And she's like, whoa. So she stops and helps some people out and then gets back in her car and drives. And she says, I was blessed. A voice in my head told me not to continue driving, but to stop right now, go in this diner, and eat. So she said, what if I hadn't listened to that voice and I'd have kept on driving? Would I have been a part of that almost 50-car accident? Wow. I would think about it for a second. So was that God? Do people have voices in their head that tells them not to do that? If you do, who do you think it is? What do you think it is? And it's what ifs. Are what ifs also a part of hypotheticals? So what if, she said, I'd have kept driving? All right. I'd have been part of that accident. I didn't drive, and I wasn't part of that accident. So is that a spiritual thing? Is it just a luck of the draw? Do you believe in coincidences? I was, a couple of days ago, I had some toast, peanut butter and jelly on it. And I'm sitting there reading, and I'm listening to a sports show, live sports show on the radio. And how many people do listen to radio? And they were talking about toast and putting jelly on it and making it a sandwich. If it's toast, can it be a sandwich? Sounds a little bit like Seinfeld. But they were discussing this as I was eating my peanut butter and jelly sandwich toast. So was it a sandwich or was it a toast? So again, coincidence? Okay. And it wasn't even hypothetical. It was a coincidence. And do you believe in coincidences? I don't technically believe in coincidences. I think that things happen. So if you're thinking about a friend and a friend calls you, hey, that's coincidence. No, you were thinking about me. And some kind of force put us together. Wow. So let me know again if you think about that. I'm just keeping it real and keeping it honest. And speaking of which, keeping it real and keeping it honest, I'm going to ask you a set of hard questions. I do this on my show. Something that makes you go, hmm. And these are honest questions because this is keeping it honest. So these questions, and go through some of them. I give you time to think about it for a second. Happiness. What is your pure feeling and perfect happiness? You can pick a little one, you can pick a big one, something that makes you happy. Mine would be eating a nice cold bowl of cereal. And me, I have to put the milk in the freezer, let it chill on the side for a little bit, and then eat my cereal. Man, that makes me happy. One of my little happiness. What is your greatest fear? Hmm. My greatest fear is nobody watching my show. Oh, oh wait, I'm in that fear now. So when you rewatch it, hit the like button, share button, and subscribe, and get me out of my greatest fear. What is your greatest fear? Could be big, it could be small. What is the trait that you most deploy in yourself? Sometimes holding back my honesty. That's a hard thing to do when you want to be real. So I deployed that. I wish I could be more honest, but then my greatest fear is that when I'm more honest, then people won't like me. So it's a catch 22. What is your thing that you deploy in yourself? What living person do you admire? Hmm. My living person may surprise you, but technically he's not a person, but that would be Jesus because he's so cool in how he deals with things. I like to be cool like him, but you can't be Jesus. You can be like Jesus. Um, but as far as a person that I admire, that I most admire, is that person that's a great dad and he feels comfortable in what he does. I admire that person. What is your greatest extravagance? My greatest one is probably having as many comic books as I could because I love comic books. So having a lot of them would be like, man, that's like having this thing too. What is your greatest extravagance? Something that, hey, it makes you feel really good. You don't mind spending money. Here's a hard one. What do you most dislike about your parents? Is there anything you dislike about your parents? Hmm. Me, I hate it when maybe my hair grows too quick and I've got to shave it constantly, which, well, then again, that's a good thing. What words or phrases do you most overuse? Well, one of mine is this right here that I talk about, keeping it honest, keeping it simple, keeping it real. But I have to do that because that's the name of the show, keeping it honest. All right. Um, when, and this is interesting, and where were you the most happiness or happy? When was I the most happy? For me, raising my kids. And maybe for some of you guys too. What talent would you most likely like to have? My talent would probably be tap dancing. I would love to tap dance. I've always liked that. I know it's kind of crazy. There's a couple playing the guitar, and the other talent is being totally sure of yourself. That takes a talent. Even though you do these kind of shows, most people do these kind of shows. They're not that they're not talented, but they doing something that's outside the box. And so they're kind of recluse, a lot of people that are in front of people. Where would you most like to live? Probably Paris, because it seems like it's a romantic place. It's a place that people call it the land of love, I guess. I don't know how the food is. I wonder if they have French fries in Paris or croissants. And then people seem to be cool and they wear those cool hats. Um, what are your heroes in real life? My heroes are people that stand up for what they believe in, no matter what's against them. And what is it that you most dislike? Betrayal. I do not like betrayal. Who does? But somebody you've been around that you trusted, that you believed in, and they stab you in the back. But think again, Jesus had that too. I'll let you look that up to find out. And what is your motto? Well, my motto is, of course, keeping it real, keeping it honest, keeping it simple. Um, what is your motto? Think about some of these as you go into the year 2024. And was 2023 a fast year? Well, let's pray that this one is slow and that we get anything and everything out of it. So, if you could watch one show, what would that one show be? Well, I like it to be my show. Um, there's a couple of shows that I watch on TV. I still watch TV. Some of my favorite shows are the what do you call it? The Hawaii show. Uh, NCIS Hawaii is a good show. It's a new show. Came on about a year or so ago. Law and Order. Dum dum. Law and Order Criminal, not Criminal Intent. That's not on anymore. Law and Order Victims Unit. The Law and Order with Stabler, and all the Chicago shows. Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Med, and Chicago. My favorite shows. Streaming shows. I like a show called Reacher, which is a good show. United Kingdom, which was on a couple years back. I thought it was about animals, but it's not. Check it out. Bosch, with one guy who I thought was a character actor, but he's been very popular on Amazon that they've done 3 spin-offs on this guy. The Border, which was a show on in the early 2010s, and I just happened to go into that a couple months ago. Jack Ryan, with the guy from The Office, who I think is a great character. I was surprised. Goliath, with the guy that was married to, and I can't remember her name. But look up Goliath. It's about an attorney that goes up against big companies. And Upload. And this show is so interesting that if you die, what if you die and somebody could take like a clone of you and upload you into kind of a virtual reality where you're alive again? And it's really a good show. It's been on 4 seasons. So let me know which shows that you like, and let me know if you've seen some of the ones that I like. Um, you can contact me again, 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. You also hope this year that you have a better boss or you become your own boss. So right here, hope you can see this. Don't know if you can. Let's see. Okay, so I'll read it to you. What is a boss versus a leader? So a boss demands respect. A leader earns respect. A boss knows it all. A leader continuously leads and learns. A boss places blame. A leader seeks to improve. A boss holds tight control. A leader gives autonomy. A boss micromanages. A leader, they trust the team. A boss rarely praises people. A leader recognizes efforts. A boss ignores feedback. A leader asks for feedback. A boss is impersonal. A leader is approachable. A boss is reactive. And a leader is proactive. So, which of these people are either A, your boss or leader, or B, you're one of the bosses or leader? And you ask yourself, if you're a boss, why aren't people liking me or respecting me? And bosses say, well, I don't care if you like or respect me, I'm the boss. Maybe you should be a leader, because I feel as a leader, when you get people to buy in, then they will be able to work with you more and respect you more. Now, if you're not looking for respect, then, continue to be that boss. But if you are looking to be that leader, then do some of the leader stuff where people will want to work for you. Um, and hopefully you have that boss or that leader that will be there for you in 2024. And in a little time that we have left, what was one of the weirdest stories out there in 2023 to you? I can tell you one of the weirdest ones. I thought of a lot of them. But I think, well, there's a couple. The Carly Russell, the lady got kidnapped with the truck driver because she saw a baby on the highway and nobody else saw it. And then where society was worried about her because, like, where is she at? And where's the baby at? And then when she came home, she admitted, well, I lied. But she had a lot of people looking for her. That was a weird, weird story. People worried about her. And then after they found out that she lied, then they didn't like her anymore. And then they made fun of her. That was one of the weirdest stories. And then the submarine, the mini sub getting caught underneath the ocean, right next to the Titanic. That was like, really, that was one of the saddest stories, if not the sad story. They were underwater for a couple of days and found out, as people were looking for them, because they thought they were still alive, that they probably died an hour into the descent. And what makes you take risk and be a risk taker? They really took a risk, and all of them died because of that risk. How much of a risk taker are you? Are you willing to risk your life, unless it's for your family, to have some fun? Well, it didn't work out for them. So as we close this show, again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell your friends, go to the About page. You can look me up for my Patreon and my Cash App. And if you see that we're doing a lot of work and you're interested to support us, please support us. And also look out soon for my Substack publication coming out. Email addresses, parkerman2222@gmail.com, parkerman2222@gmail.com. My telephone number, contact me anytime, leave voicemail. You can text me, 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. And we also have my chat. So let me know the best time to do shows: daytime, evening, afternoon, overnight. You let me know and we'll work on that, and let me know about people you like to see on the show. I thank you for supporting us. Stay tuned for all our interesting things that we have planned. And again, we are, oh, wrong one. See if I can find it real quick. We're keeping it simple. We're keeping it real. And that's what we're doing. Oh, here we go. And we are keeping it honest. There we go. Keeping it simple, keeping it honest, and keeping it real. Tell your friends. Thank you for participating in the show, or even sitting back. Tell your friends the rewatchables. Contact me. Let me know what you think. I'm Anthony Parker Alexander. Keep your head up. Never look down. Always believe in yourself. And therein will lie your answer. God bless.